is to what's called the Community Preservation Act, which is a fund that cities can set up for the purposes of open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. And these changes to the law make it much more attractive to cities. Really, Cambridge is one of the few cities that's taken advantage of it in the past. And it's makes a city or town eligible for millions and millions of dollars in state matching monies. So that's an exciting opportunity.
You think Somerville is going to be primed and ready to take advantage of that?
Well, it's something that the voters will decide. But I think once the voters learn more about it, it's something that will be attractive.
Great.
Because, Somerville for a long time has looked for ways to do the community path, to do some other projects, maybe acquire and preserve certain historic buildings. And
we've always had to do that through the grant process and through lining up with every other municipality.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and this would be a dedicated revenue stream, and the city would have to put something into that. But one of the changes to the law is it allows the city to use certain existing funds as its part of the match. So since we do, we have an affordable housing trust fund. We have certain other funds that are
specifically set aside,
dedicated to these purposes. Then what we can do is create a profile of how much we're already raising toward our eligibility, and make a decision from there.
Right.
So that's a good thing.
Up or down in terms of the overall expenditures? Are we up or are we down?
We are up a bit. And what that has meant is that Somerville's getting more local aid. We've put more aid into higher education and into a number of human services. Mass Cultural Council is doing well, which is always something I hear about from people in Somerville. Got more rather than less funding. Quite a number of accounts that I hear from constituents about are doing well this year. By and large, considering that there are no new taxes or fees at all, I think it is as generous a budget as we can have under those circumstances.
You heard it here, Somerville, from one of the three representatives on Beacon Hill who represent Somerville.
Yes.
Tim Toomey, yourself, you've got the lion's share of Somerville, and Carl Shortino. No new taxes or fees. That's welcome to folks watching this program. But we do have a lot of programs that are out there that are waiting for some type of funding source. And one of the things that you and I, living here for a long time, have always fought for is transportation funding. So the big question on everybody's mind is, we've got all these plans about increasing, the Green Line through the city, and there's a whole mindset shift from the congressman to the mayor that says, okay, we may not be able to build the whole thing at one time. Let's at least get, the three stations in around the eastern part of the city. Let's get those built first. That does not sit well with me, but this is not my bullied pulpit. So how do we pay for that is the question. And then folks like you say, well, there are alternative funding sources, and one of those happens to be the gas tax.
Well, the gas tax is an important way to raise money for transportation. When I say transportation, I mean every form. Highways,
roads, bridges,
exactly.
Public transportation.
Which includes the regional transit authorities that we have in locations all over the state, as well as the MBTA. The idea of raising money through a transportation-related tax and putting that into transportation it's widespread throughout the country. In fact, the first the first gasoline tax was raised specifically to pave roads. This is back in the early days of motoring.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that was successful was because motorists,
wanted better roads.
They wanted better roads.
Right.
They would get flat tires. They would ride in clouds of dust. I'm trying to remember which state it was. Washington, perhaps. Washington State. But that was where the gasoline tax was pioneered. But in general, it's good for transportation systems to have multiple sources of income, and not put all of its eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Yeah, a mixed portfolio. I mean,
Yeah.
My mindset, a mixed portfolio of your revenue sources is the best way to move forward. Because if it's all congregated in one place, and that one place takes a hit, everything suffers.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, which is why the MBTA had difficulty, could not achieve a balanced budget this year.
Right.
Because it is its single greatest source of revenue is from the sales tax, probably a strange way to fund transportation, but nobody consulted me back in 2000 when that system was created. And since then, sales tax revenues have never met projections.
Right.
And we've had a couple of recessions. So, and people have shifted a lot to buying over the internet. So all of these factors have meant that the MBTA has never realized the revenue that was projected for it when it was switched onto that diet. And
it's interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up, because what was it, 2 years ago, municipalities were given the option to impose a meals tax, meals and hotels tax. And it's interesting that you're saying that, because the city of Somerville, when they were pitching that to the Board of Aldermen and saying we'd like to be able to do that, I think the restaurateurs and the food service people here in the city were kind of skeptical about imposing that, but they went along with it because they understood the logic and the rationale, and we weren't the only one who was going to do it. Other municipalities were going to do it, but the revenues of that has not met the expectations of the city. So when you say people shift their behavior and they change their behavior, it's very true. The more you tax people, the more they'll figure out a way to get around it.
Yeah. I haven't seen figures for Somerville, but statewide, business is up in restaurants.
Okay.
Which is a good thing. I think it shows that the economy is doing a bit better than it was.
I'm hearing it more and more and more. Every day I hear from small business people across the city that it's not as bad as it was. We do see a gentle incline of business increasing. So let's hope that we're out of, the deepest, darkest recession, and that we're starting to see the light.
Yes. I mean, obviously what happens in Europe affects Massachusetts a
Right.
great deal because we export more to Europe than most states do.
Right.
So, I would emphasize the caution and cautiously optimistic. But I think by and large Massachusetts has done a good job of managing its own economy.
Massachusetts and Somerville.
That too.
We try to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
We did have to make some cuts here in the city, as well as up on Beacon Hill had to make their cuts, but we've managed to get through the darkest hour, as they say. So, any other great big initiatives coming out of Beacon Hill in the next year?
Well, we passed another transportation bond bill, which is, again, money to fix roads and bridges and highways and and to fund what's called the Chapter 90 accounts. This is money that's discretionary that goes to cities and towns to do their local roads, to do repaving and improvements. So that's that's significant and welcome, I'm sure. One of the things that we've also done is to approve a new procurement method called construction manager general contractor, CMGC, which is the method that MassDOT wants to use to build the Green Line extension. So that was an important
So it's
piece.
how the state shops around for the best price for the projects that are out there.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's a little different from traditional procurement in that the separation is not so great between design and construction, which
Compressed it.
exactly,
Yeah.
and gives the construction manager more direct responsibility for building.
And it's an important factor because when you look at when we started to plan for the Green Line in this city, 2004, God love the Red Sox, in 2004, here we are, 2012, we've spent some money, but we haven't spent the lion's share of the actual build part of that project, and inflation has increased the price of that project.
Well, inflation always
So the
does
longer
increase
we
the price.
wait, the more, well, let's put it in a positive spin, the more we can compress when we implement projects, the less we spend.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is a construction procurement method that's been used in Massachusetts before for buildings, although not for other kinds of public works.
Infrastructure, yeah.
Exactly, which is being very much promoted by the federal government. Other states have used it with the Green Line is going to be the pilot project for CMGC in Massachusetts.
Let's hope it's successful.
Well, I was skeptical at first, but I'm more and more persuaded that it's worth a try, that it has some advantages. And in any case, that's what MassDOT insists is the method that they need. And so the ball's in their court.
Well, let me bang the drum one more time. I think if you want to test this out, you can test it out on the main line part of the Green Line extension. That being from Leechmere all the way through the city up to West Medford, or up to Route 16. I won't keep banging the drum. The mayor knows how I feel about this shift between eastern part of the city gets it first, and then the rest of us.
Well, the MPO only just approved the extension to Route 16. As you know, before
Right.
the extent of the project had
Was
been
up to
College
Tufts.
Avenue.
Right.
It was only College Avenue. So,
Right.
so that's huge actually in terms of the authorization
Right.
of the project, that the MPO has made that decision because neither planning nor funding nor anything else can follow until the scope of the project is set.
Yep.
And that vote has been taken now.
Well, I know you've been an advocate for give us what was promised.
Yep.
And, this piecemeal approach, we will see how it pans out, but you're going to be faced with your own set of challenges this summer. You've already been out door knocking for most of the summer.
Very much so.
You have election coming up in November, but prior to that, you're going to have a primary.
And for me, that's the big election. The
Right.
one opponent I have is a Democrat. So
Yep.
September 6th is my big election day.
Right.
And this year, the election is a Thursday, which
You
is,
take it over. You explain to the folks why that primary is on a Thursday.
It's on a Thursday because the Secretary of State decided that the primary election would be on a Thursday. So it's the Thursday after Labor Day. After setting the election on this peculiar date, the Secretary of State has since predicted lowest turnout in 30 years, 8 to 14% turnout. But I'm hoping here in Somerville, where we have such exceptional fireworks and such exceptional community access television and many other things.
We're going to have to
exceptional
do
turnout.
a full-blown press here with all the local media to make sure that people understand that primaries are just as important as general elections. You know, I think people are getting weary of the presidential election that's coming up in November because it actually started, you know, probably 8 months ago, but
if not before.
If not before. But Somerville, you're going to have your chance in September because we actually have two very exciting primary candidates. We have, or races. We have state rep, you in a primary fight with someone I had never heard of before, and the Registry of Deeds, although that's a county-wide, it has two important players from the city of Somerville.
Right.
We have Alderwoman Marianne Houston, who is running for that seat. Gene Brune is vacating that seat. He's retiring after many, many years of serving there. So Alderman Marianne Houston, Attorney Maria Curtatone, and I believe Bob Antonelli is still in there.
I think he is not.
He is not.
I think he is
so
not.
So it's two Somerville folks.
Two Somerville folks and
it's about 6 or 7 others, aren't there? 5 others?
At least 3. Yeah. At least 3 others.
Yeah. I know that, you know, on another show that broadcasts here on cable, Tom Concannon's name comes up a lot. He's the former mayor of Newton. You know, he's well known across the county. But, you know, the interesting part about that race, and we'll come back to yours, is that, you know, you have 2 hometown people running for a Registry of Deeds. My opinion only, that vote gets split. So you have the Friends of Maria Curtatone and you have the Friends of Marianne Houston, and that, in my mind, means neither one of them wins.
Well, it's very hard for me to predict county races. I don't have enough sense of what goes on in the other.
Yeah, because it stretches as far west as Framingham and up into the Merrimack Valley.
Lowell is the county seat of northern Middlesex County. It's an enormous county.
Right.
An enormous
and it's got
county.
A huge population. And it's difficult to reach all those people. So.
Yes.
But back to your race here in Somerville. What is it that you've been able to discern are the important factors as you've been out door knocking this summer? What are people saying to you? Is that they're starting to get this feeling of things are getting better, or are they still frightened?
It varies a bit by neighborhood. I think in general, people are happy to be in Somerville. People are impatient about the Green Line. I hear a lot of that. People have their own specific concerns. Employment is still an important issue, especially for young people.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for young people. Education costs, which are going up and up, are a big concern for families and for young people who, may have graduated from college but did so with a great deal of debt from college loans. And, in that age group, the 20 to 22-year-olds, the unemployment rate is over 10%.
Yeah.
So it's a mercy, I think, that we had changes in our health care law that allow young people to stay
with their parents' health care.
Exactly, until age 26, because that age group is otherwise, I think, very stretched in its resources and stretched in for opportunities.
Yeah, and that age group, when it comes to health care, that age group tends to be, even though because they are younger, they tend to be less chronically ill, but they're more prone to accidents.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying you're all wretched, reckless people, but broken bones, yeah.
Yes, I have done constituent.
Well, you've raised 2 girls too, so you know that.
Well, yes, but even in terms of people who call my office for help in dealing with their insurers, which is something everyone should feel free to do, whether it's Mass Health or even a private insurance company. Sometimes we can help out there. But
let's do that before we run out of time. Is that your office at the State House can be reached?
The phone number is 617-722-2263.
And you have a website for your campaign.
Yeah, I do. That's separate from my State House stuff.
Right.
But I do have a State House email address, denise.provo@mahouse.gov. But call or email or, even call me at home. There are all kinds of ways to get in touch with me.
I am always loath to say you should call your elected official at home because, sometimes I get myself in trouble. But I'll tell you, after knowing Representative Provo all these years, you can call her house and she'll answer the phone. It's not like she screens or anything. So.
No, when I was on the Board of Aldermen,
right.
people would stop by sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Just to
I've been known to stop by and
see if I was there and tell me what they needed.
And what are you getting from the glad handing? What are you getting from the handshaking that you're doing out there this summer? You're getting a lot of encouragement from folks that you're doing a good job. We're going to vote for you. You got to stay in there.
I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. Yep. I've got a lot of positive feedback.
Yep, great.
And people have said some very heartwarming things, and that's.
Now you picked up a couple of new precincts, didn't you, this year?
Just one new precinct. Precinct 2 of Ward 2 was redistricted into the 27th Middlesex District because Cambridge, the population of Cambridge has grown so much that Representative Toomey had to give up a precinct.
So those of you down here in Ward 2 in the Union Square District,
and
Ward 2, Precinct 2.
By Lincoln Park down to the Cambridge line.
You used to be able to vote for Representative Toomey. Yep. Now you have the opportunity to vote for Representative Provo.
How's that? True.
There you go. True. There you go. We're going to be running out of time. We probably only have about a minute. And since I ran into some problem right at the very beginning of the show, I'm going to thank State Representative Denise Provost for joining me tonight. If we had a little problem up front, let's blame it on RCN or Comcast or somebody. So on behalf of Greater Somerville, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a very, very safe and happy 4th. And don't forget that the primary for state representative for most of Somerville is on September 6th, which is a Thursday because Labor Day falls on Monday and we have a bunch of other things happening. So don't forget Thursday, September 6th. Vote for a state representative. There'll be a lot of things that'll be out before then, but thank you so much for coming back and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we'll see you on the campaign trail.
I'll be around.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining us. Good night.
Good night.